Hello. Welcome to the Art Talk.
Depression.
Yeah. So let's get started. Crippling depression. I took the gun out of my mouth to do this podcast.
Ugh,
Oh, well,
that's not
too
fun.
soon for guns. Sorry, we have a list of art.
Well, I was going to talk about my... So whenever I talk to Zach about, like, the future of, like, art stuff that we want to do, or, like, video stuff and whatever, all the stuff that we plan to do in the future, I always have these revelations of, like, mindset and perspective.
Mm-hmm. He projects his insecurities onto me.
And then he reflects them back.
Just kidding. No, I'm joking. Sorry, go on.
Yeah. So I was thinking, like, you know, when you watch a lot of, like, Gary Vee stuff, he's always like, you know, if you want this, which is either grow your business, start your side hustle, whatever, marketing, anything you want, usually it's like work more, obviously, because you have to work to get there. And I think where we were at before was I was ready to be patient, because he always talks about patience, which makes sense, right? Like, nothing will happen overnight. Like, you're not going to reach your grand goal of having a personal brand or whatever, increasing your business, whatever, by, like, not working for a long period of time. Like, those things take time. They take a lot of effort and stuff like that, right?
But Kurt, what about those rappers that blow up at age 18?
What about Man's Not Hot?
What about Juice WRLD?
Nordic Jews?
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I'm just...
And so, like, the answer to all those things of, like, what you want is to work.
Yeah.
But and that's, to me, that's like kind of 100 level thinking, which is fine, which is true. That's all true, right? But I feel like I'm kind of at this other level where it's like, you know, why do you want those things that you want? And then above that is like, do you need those things to be happy? Because I was at a point where I was ready to be patient and put in the work for like even 20 years, 40 years, whatever, you know, like till I'm like super old, like just be grinding away and like putting in the work. The problem though is if I did get to that point of being like 4 years from now, 20 years from now, and it didn't happen sometime in there, I would be kind of like disappointed maybe, or I might be kind of sad or like insecure about what I spent my time on and where I'm at right now. Okay. And I think that's where it's the ambition itself becomes very similar to like the things that are kind of vain that we justify or I justify, because I'm like, no, being a successful artist is like it could be like a noble thing, or it's like, it's more like being a successful artist sounds more acceptable to my personal psyche, myself, than wanting to just have a Beamer or have a car or have a house or have like a high paying job or whatever, right? Like being artist for wanting to be an artist sounds better. But I would argue, like, I'm at this point now kind of is like when you're trying to obtain something, that ambition sometimes is not always as healthy, because it's like I want to justify it for myself, like in a way like I would feel less insecure about myself if I was a successful, sustainable artist, and getting there. But the problem is I'm now going to look for the best, most efficient route to get there. And then, but if I do all those steps and work really hard and whatever, and I don't get there, I might be disappointed. And so what I'm suggesting the way I am right now is to not like have those wants in that way. It's kind of like and it's very, to me, I think of it as kind of like Buddhist-y, is like releasing yourself of these wants of like, I want to be a successful artist. I want to be a successful artist. Like I want to, you know, make an income by making art. Like that would just make me happy, and I'd be like happy with myself and see myself as successful. But it's actually, Gary even had that clip on Instagram where he was talking to some guy. He's like, it's not the success. Like you can't want the success, because then every day that you're not successful by the way you've defined it, you're going to be unhappy because you're like, I'm not there yet. Like, I just can't wait till I'm there yet. Like, I want to, what's the most efficient route? And that's where people start looking into, like, they want the how-to, the exact guide. Like, how old, when you were this old, what exactly did you do? And what's the step-by-step way that you got to where you got to, which obviously is not realistic, right? But I'm at a place where I think, and this works for me at the moment, right? Is I don't want to force anything, because I don't feel like otherwise my life will become, that's the truth that I will arrive at, is once I get here, because I forced it the whole way, is I will now be like, yeah, this is how you get there, is you force everything, which might work, and that's fine if that's the life I want to live. But I kind of like to enjoy the way I am, like everything that's going on right now is like, I like to come home and play games, and maybe that can lead to me doing more things that I actually want to do, right? Like draw or write or whatever, without the pressure of, because I used to always get that pressure of like, oh, I didn't do anything this week, like I didn't make a video, like I should make a video every week, like I fucking didn't make a video this week, I'm useless. No, okay, not that bad, but I feel guilty about like, oh, I'm not on track, you know, like at this rate, if I don't do this much, I'm not going to make it there because I'm not doing the steps, right? And I just, you know, like I keep trying to accept that, like, oh, you have to like accept the grind and do the work to get there or whatever, right?
Okay.
But I'm more kind of like, it's funny because if you let the pressure off of yourself, or myself personally, the way I'm working is I can see myself doing more net because I'm not doing it out of guilt. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I'm doing it because I just feel like I came home and I played Dragon Quest, which might lead me to write an article about Dragon Quest and make a video, which might lead me to do something else. You know what I mean? Or maybe not. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll just enjoy playing Dragon Quest, which will give me the energy to maybe draw more, maybe, because I just want to play Dragon Quest. I don't know.
In a way, you're saying the ambition for whatever goal can be a flex, kind of?
I don't want it to sound like a flex, like, necessarily, like, from an external point of view, but it's something, I don't even call it a flex. Like, yes, that's one thing it could be. It could be that. It could be just like you want to tell someone that you've made it as an artist. That's fine. That's something separate. Yes. I just think it's that, like, I personally, that's something that I, like, want selfishly, whether I don't care if you value that or someone else values that, I don't really care. It's just something that I value as something that I deem successful in my ambitions that I want to achieve. So, like, for example, it's like I always wanted to, like, draw really well, which I actually don't think people would, like, obviously people would look at it and be like, that's really cool, but in terms of, like, you know, universal respect as a flex, like, yo, I draw really, like, no one's really gonna be like, wow, you know, like, oh, you know what I mean? So, like,
when people say I draw well, I'm almost embarrassed a little bit. Like, I'm like,
so you spend so much time, whatever, right? But I'm almost like, but that's what I'm saying is, like, that's something, like, for me, like, that's a selfish thing that I would feel like my self-esteem and my confidence or whatever, my self-worth would be improved, like, greatly if I had put in the work and I can draw really well, because I'd be like, I'd actually be proud of myself, right? Because I'd feel good about myself. Like, this is something I always want to do and draw.
You gotta do it because you love it, for sure. Like, you have to be able to love the process, because, like, a lot of times I listen to, like, comics podcasts, like Web Comics Weekly is one of them, and they're like, this isn't a profession. Yeah, you should. You'll enjoy it. But this isn't a profession you go into to, like, make boatloads of money. You got to do it because you love it, and if you don't love it, you're not going to make it very far. And you know, you have to learn to love the process. And, like, I think we got to be careful to, like, I think I understand the sentiment and what you mean. I agree. But also, it's like, you have to walk a fine line, because it's like, I don't want people to be deterred from the idea of setting goals, you know? Like, if someone wants to set a weekly goal, then that's cool. I think that's totally fine. But if they don't hit it, they shouldn't be super hard on themselves, which I think is a big part of what you're saying, is being too hard on yourself for not achieving that specific ambition or specific whatever they've deemed success.
I think the goal has to come from where this all, like, what is everything, like, what are you doing, right? So it's like,
are you doing because you like it?
Just for example, I'll explain, like, to give you an example, right? Is like, some people believe in just goal setting. Yeah. Right? I mean, this is a very extreme thing, right? It's just like, like, you should set goals, period.
Okay.
And so you set goals and then you accomplish them. The problem that I have with that potentially is that, like, what are these goals for? Like, what, like, because a lot of people will set goals, but they don't know why there's, like, what, like, it's like, oh, I go and I work out, and then people ask them why. It's like, well, because I want to be healthy, because that's just this thing, of course, like, everybody's like, yeah, of course you want to be healthy. And then so you work out, you try to set goals, like, yeah, I'm going to try to lift more, right? And then because that's just a goal, I want to lift 200 pounds by next month, I don't know, right? And you just kind of set goals, and then you go on, and people are like, oh, why are you working out? Because I want to get stronger. And then you just kind of say something that's in the ether, the generic societal thing, and it's kind of, you go down that path, right? Like, what's your next goal? Well, you know, I work at this job, I want to progress through this job, and I want to make this X amount of money. That's my goal. You know what I mean? Like, and then you just kind of do those things. The problem, I guess, is, like, if this is serving the ultimate purpose of, like, happiness, which, again, we're in this era of individual happiness right now, then it makes sense, right? Because it's like, well, okay, so like I said, I was talking to Zach about this earlier, is like work servicing fun and fun servicing work. That idea of, like, for example, when I do kickboxing, I might set this goal of, like, trying to learn this technique. but it's because in the net, it's going to make me training and sparring and stuff funner because I want to learn that technique. It comes out of fun. Whereas, like, for example, when I play squash, you know, when one of my buddies was like, oh, you should try this drill, like, try to hit it 20 times against the wall and whatever, and this drill, this exercise. And I'm like, I don't want to do that because it's not fun. Because it doesn't service the end goal of, like, it's not going to make me any happier. Like, whether I win or lose at squash, I actually don't care. But in sparring, it's like using a really cool technique is something that just makes sparring fun. If I can pull off some really cool spin kick, something, like, it's fun for me. So that'll justify my, like, it'll make it fun to work on that technique for X amount of hours.
Okay.
Whereas, like, you know, there's that video where Gary's talking to that chick that's like, you know, like, I'm just, how do you get over anxiety? Because I'm always setting these goals and I always get the goals, but I just have all this anxiety. And he's like, dude, I have no goals beyond, like, my funeral, like, or anything, like, that's it. Like, if I had a goal every week, I would trip balls because I'm like, oh my god, I have to finish by next week. I gotta, you know what I mean? Because he's not, but that's because that's a proof of, like, the way he executes is not based on I have this goal and I need to achieve it because that's the next thing, which will fill this goal that I have to reach because I'm trying to get there. So I need to get to here and then here and then here and then here and then I'll get that thing because I did all the steps, right? He's not doing that. He's just kind of doing whatever. Like, it's like when people are like, oh, I have all these. Oh, you know what's funny? We've had that light off this whole time.
Oh, shit.
Should we turn it on or fuck it? Fuck it.
It looks fine.
It looks fine. We have two lights going on and one of them's just off. We thought,
I'm just very bright and Kurt's just half bright.
That's funny. But Gary, like, when he does stuff, he says, like, you know, people are like, oh, I have so many different things going on. And they're like, should I focus on one or whatever? He's just like, you should just do what makes you happy. Like, at that moment, like, you should just do all the things. And, like, his thing about when it comes to productivity is, like, you should just be okay with some of them failing because that's what's going to happen if you're concerned about failure.
I think if you're going to set those goals, you have to be okay with not always meeting them.
Yeah, and I think it's good to, like, always have a direction, right? Like, I know what you're saying about, like, having a direction. Like, if you set goals, you have, like, a direction
like,
in
for
which
instance,
you're going.
I'm trying to put out a comic, and I just broke down all the steps I need to do it.
But I would argue that
I'm cool being on whichever step for as long as I need to be. But, like, for me to be able to, like, visually see, like, oh, okay, this isn't as hard as I thought it would be, or hey, this is going to be a lot of work, and, like, understanding that.
But I think those setting the goals and making the plan, I would argue is, like, it's a good thing, but the reason why you would do it is to calm your anxiety.
Well, yeah, the main thing was
less so to, because you don't want it to cause the anxiety like, I have this goal because if I don't reach this goal, then we're gonna not get to here, and if I don't get to here, then it's not. I'm gonna die, and I'm not gonna get it.
Going back to the list thing and the anxiety, because like I set that, like, kind of macro goal of, like, these are the steps that are gonna take me a while to do, and, like, this is just how I have to break it down. But then when I try to be like, this is what I'm going to do social media wise for the full week, that's when I get anxiety. I'm like, I'm not going to, I can't, I don't think I've hit it once.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm going to make 3 TikTok videos a week. I'm going to make 3 Instagram posts. I'm going to post on my story every day. And I'm going to have at least 5 posts on my story. I'm going to have 3 tweets a day at least. And it's like, I'm not going to fucking do that. Like, I'm going to do it when I feel like it. Oh, I got a funny idea. Here's a tweet. Oh, hey, I feel like posting a story because I thought it was funny.
I didn't know you're on Twitter, actually. Are you on Twitter?
I am on Twitter.
Oh, we should follow each other.
Yeah, we should.
I just started getting on Twitter.
Zackerman 5 or whatever. I don't fucking know.
Not 7?
I know, right?
But,
they gave me that one. And I was like, what the hell?
Versus, like, I think the plan and the goal can relieve anxiety if you use it in the right way, right? Like, if I write down the things that I'm doing and I feel like I have a direction and I can see kind of the steps, I'm going to feel less anxious because I'm like, I know what to do. You know, like, okay, if this happens, I do this, and, like, this is the next thing. I know what's coming. I know what I'm doing right now. But that doesn't necessarily mean, like, a lot of people can be, like I said, a lot of people can be anxious because of the plan, and plans make them feel anxious. Therefore, they operate better, like, more improvisationally or, like, more fluidly. They just kind of, you know, it's kind of like same thing with sparring. Like, everybody has to find their thing, right? Like, if a coach, like, certain fighters, if you tell them, okay, we're gonna do this combo, we're gonna execute this type of fighting, they're going to be like, yeah, okay, I know what I'm doing. I'm going to execute. I'm going to go do that. Yeah. Whereas other fighters, you tell them that, they're going to be like, no, but it's too restricting for them. They're better at, like, in the moment. Like, I flow, I see him, I hit him, I move. Just moving in the moment is better with, like, for them, right? And so everybody has their own different thing. It's just you have to find that balance where you feel good enough to execute. Right? Because like, when you're too anxious, you're too stressed, there's too much going on or whatever, like, it's overwhelming, then you can't execute, you can't do anything, and then it's just going to lead to, like, inaction and you know, sadness and depression or whatever, right? But I don't know. That's just kind of like the place that I'm at right now. Whereas like I'm
Yeah.
not. I used to be very gung ho about like like I'm the hustle. Like I want to like work hard and fucking get there and then.
Yeah.
But I'm more of like I'm
It's
enjoying.
a fine line to walk, though, I feel like.
I think it's if you want, the more you want, the more you have to buy into that. Like the more things you want, the more you have to
Also,
accept that you have to work to get those things,
exactly.
but also accept that you might not get them.
Exactly,
right?
and the more likely you could have disappointment, I guess. So,
Right.
like,
Right.
But you also have to be realistic. Like, I might not reach it, or like understand like the not consequences, but the possible.
Because it's the same as like I don't want people to like invest so much and then feel like they wasted it in the same way that you like put all your life savings into like Bitcoin or something, and then it doesn't work out and you're like fuck, right? Like you committed so much. And it's the same thing with time, right? Is like if you spend so much on like 40 years of like trying to make it to this thing that you really really wanted and then it still doesn't happen, you can't look back and be like I regret that now. Right? It should have been like you were doing the thing you wanted to do at that moment, and then you just keep doing that, and then you're happy. And it's like that. Like I always go to that's lame. It's not lame, but that cliche quote is like, "There's no path to happiness," as in happiness is a place where you can reach. Like, you know, people are like, once I get my car and once I have my family and my house, then I'll have all the pieces that required to happiness, and then I have happiness and a whole nice ribbon bow, and I will be happy.
Now I have it.
Yeah, exactly. Now I have it until I die. I'll be happy.
I got the touchdown.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Now it's the end of the game. Conclusion. Live happily ever after. Like it's not. There's no path to reaching that.
That football field is on a treadmill.
Yeah. Versus they're like the happiness is the path, which kind of just means every step you take should be happy.
I've heard varying terms for like that. The same kind of quote is like, I'm not happy because I'm successful. I'm successful because I'm happy. That kind of like similar.
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
I think Richard Branson said that, but okay. Well,
but that's kind of like where I'm at right now, which is why like I'm not judging myself, and I'm not hard on like, you know, when I want to play Dragon Quest,
you're
whatever.
Not
and
yourself,
ironically, like I think it could lead me to execute more because I'm not under that pressure. Like I might play more games, which might, again, I said this already, like might lead me to make more content out of those games. Exactly. I actually find myself drawing more, which I have no like crazy goals to become a crazy artist, like, and whatever. But like it's always something that I just wanted to do.
And it's like a lot of those like successful people like we look up to, or like they're like, how did you build this? And it's like, well, that wasn't really the plan to begin with. We didn't really like think we would be here. You know, it's like
you're just doing it for fun.
We were doing it for fun, and then like the market didn't even exist before we did it. A lot of them, it's like
we just thought it was funny or whatever.
This is what we like to do,
exactly.
And then it just kind of happened that way.
I think like going back to like the servicing work and the work servicing. I don't know. It's just a concept I was thinking about. Is like I'm lucky in a position where I don't have the complex of like a lot of people have work just for the sake of servicing work. And when I say work, I mean that as in like trying to sustain yourself.
Means to an end.
Yeah, means to an end of financially like sustaining yourself, right? So that's usually like work, right? So usually people have that as like a work servicing work, which is like the work you're doing, you're not really enjoying it, but the ends of those means is to sustain yourself, right? Whereas I right now, like my work isn't really, it's almost fun, you could say, because I get to do whatever I want on my job, like when I'm sitting at the desk. It's kind of like the end is I am sustaining myself financially, but I can make it kind of fun, right? Yeah. But whether it's fun or not doesn't matter. I need to meet the end of financially sustaining myself, right? But I'm lucky that I have that where it's like the work is kind of fun. Like I make the work fun, and then the end is still met, which is my financial stability, which our generation right now, again, individual happiness and all that stuff is focused on making, pretty much doing that is making work fun as it possibly can, which there's so many ways to do that. Find another job and like do your passion, blah blah blah. But there's other things I think it's interesting. I feel like I'm maybe gonna start categorizing things like that as like the end. What is the end here? The end for me is to like make a financial, living, which is, that means whether it's fun or not, I got to do it, which I can start classifying certain things like making content or whatever. I can classify that in that category. But I also think it's worth having the other category where, work service is fun, or like the end at least is fun, which is like drawing and training for me right now, or just, that's it, fun. Like I don't want to make a living off of kickboxing, right? I just kickbox because it's fun, like purely out of fun. The same thing with squash is like, that's like the perfect example for me. Is like, I don't care if I lose or if I'm good or like whatever. I just find when I'm playing, it's actually like exhilarating. Like it's actually like really fun. Like it's really fun. Right? It's actually hilarious. Like you hit it this way and then you're like, oh, he hits that short shot and then you still get it somehow. Like somehow out of the magic of your sprinting and anticipation, you ran up and you still got it, but then he gets it. I don't know. It's actually really fun. But there's a point to that, and it's kind of like, you know, Gary will talk about that too. Is like he you know, when he watches the Jets football or whatever, right? It's like that's purely just to relax and have fun, right? And I think like I'm focusing on that a lot because I have the space to do that. The problem, I guess, it's not a problem, but like a lot of people just have that complex where they have work that services work, right? They don't have any fun, and then they have to try to find places to fit in the fun outside, which is just the end is just fun. Right, so it's kind of like fun servicing fun, which is fine.
So I see a lot of guys with trucks that work construction jobs, and they just go get fucking drunk every weekend because, you know.
But I think it's like
finding their fun.
Yeah, like you need that balance. I think where it's like it's just nice to not have work servicing work.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because it's just like you're doing shit you don't like just for the end of like sustaining yourself.
Yep.
Right. But I just think that's something that everybody should focus on because I think at least in today's day and age, there's a lot of ways to do that. You know what I mean? Like you can at least find a job that's not that bad. And I always think about like, you know, like the amount of time that you spend at work and the people that are there are so important because it's like at this point, like I see my boss more than I see any of my friends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I see him every day, but I see my friends like once or twice a week maybe. And so like if the people at your job suck, then like that's it.
That's like a majority of your life.
Yeah, it's your whole life, right? Yeah. And so you have to at least find a job where it's like not at least a little bit fun almost, you know what I mean? Because you can't it's miserable if it's just work on work, you know what I mean? But if if the end is still being met of like the work part where you're you know whatever, but it's fun a little bit, then it's good, you know what I mean? But I think there's a lot of ways to do that, like but you know obviously in this age of the side hustle, like it doesn't hurt to try to do that.
No.
Right? To try to like make your side hustle that thing that sustains you. But you have to put it in that box of like the fun has to serve us to work, which is what, you know, going back to what we were talking about the first place. As you can set those goals, but you have to be ready to sacrifice a little bit of fun, obviously, to make it that financial goal.
And you have to be okay with that.
Right? But I think like that's something that like that goal I'm not super as attached to at the moment just because my balance is good. Yeah. Right? And I think for a lot of people, like, you know, in certain situations, like I was thinking like you and Bobby and stuff like that, it's like, it's just like you gotta like find some way to like move out kind of, you know what I mean? Like, and just have space to yourself. Like I've said this to a lot of people because it's like, I was in that place too where I'm like at home and kind of and just like not really sure. And I'm a big insecurity that I've always had is not being able to sustain myself. This is actually
like, an intervention for me. Mom, Dad, come on. No, I'm joking.
But that's like one of my biggest insecurities I always had was like, can I work hard enough to sustain myself? Yeah. And like, what if I have all these bills and like, how am I gonna like survive? Yeah. You know what I mean? But like when you're doing it and then this is like
exciting.
Yeah, like right now, like this is like my space. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like this is like I pay for this, I work for this.
Still MySpace?
MySpace. Versus like, you know, like living like at home is like it's better for you like financially, but like self-esteem wise it's like difficult sometimes.
Like self-reliance.
You know what I mean?
Things. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But
like
I think
when they're like, "What are you doing?"
But you don't know it until you like jump.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Like, oh wow.
And then you kind of like
weight off my shoulders.
Yeah, like you don't realize it right away maybe, but like over time you kind of feel yourself becoming a real person more versus like before you're kind of like, I don't know, can I do this or like am I because I always felt like that. Like I always felt like very not. I feel like I'm not a real person, you know? Like I'm not, enough. You know, like I'm just like, you know, when I play Dark Souls all day, like there's a time where I was playing Dark Souls.
No one's there to be like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, you can do whatever you want, and then surprisingly,
Dark Souls all day.
But like
Curtis,
surprisingly, as a person, you know, when you're on your own, you actually end up surviving.
You know what I mean? Made your mom like an old grandma.
No, my mom doesn't care. My mom's cool. She's fine with that stuff.
Hey, she's great.
Yeah, no, my mom's awesome. But
nice lady.
I think like, you know, a lot of people, I don't know, it's just interesting, like, you know, Gary was talking to this other guy, I don't know, some guy on this latest podcast, it doesn't really matter, about, like, parenthood, and then the parent was, like, talking about...
Oh, I think I saw this one.
Yeah, the one where his son
spends too much time on.
Or he's like, because Gary was like, oh, you want your kid to be happy, like the focus should be happiness, and he's like, yeah, but like my kid would be happy just playing Fortnite all day or something like that, right? And then he's like, but I want my kid to like the potential of my kid could, or like not even my kid, but just in general, like the potential, like for me, if my potential was this, but I only made it to here, then I don't know if I would be happy with myself because I could have made it to there. But like problem that obviously I have with that and Gary seemed to have with that is that like that's an expectation that's like for him that has nothing to do with the kid.
Exactly. He's projecting his insecurity onto the kid now. Which a lot of parents do. What do you know?
Yeah.
But it's the sync point. We're good. Have a good night, everybody. Just kidding. Yeah. No, I'm joking.
But I think it is important to like focus on like what it is that you particularly like doing with or without like these goals or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, obviously, like it is important to recognize what you're good at, just so you know what you could potentially like do as a living, just in case, you know, like whatever. Like there's certain things that I'm good at that I could probably fall back on if I really wanted to as a living, but I haven't like accepted that as like a thing that I'm gonna do yet because I don't necessarily like them. Like I feel like I know I could be like a really good personal trainer.
Yeah.
But like I don't enjoy it. Like I've tried it, I've done it a little bit, but it's not like fun. Like I don't get excited to be a personal trainer. Like, oh, I can't wait to go and train people. Like it's not exciting for me. Whereas like I actually get excited like every day. You know what's funny? Every day like when work's almost over, I get excited to like go home and play Dragon Quest.
Yeah.
Like that's what I'm excited for right now. You know what I mean? But again, this is in that age of like, you know, we're chasing this individual happiness where I could actually see like the next generation being more like the focus is on collectively trying to save the planet, which is totally not the same as individual happiness. It's got to be like
altruism.
Yeah, it's got to be like, okay, we got to sacrifice our generation to try to fix the world. So I could see that being like, you know, another mindset that's totally different from what we're talking about.
Disagrees.
Free market.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm kind of tired today, but I feel like I said maybe like 10 things, but
that's okay.
I didn't really need to because I agree.
I agree. Well, I agree.
I think
agree,
it was pretty succinct how you described like just like the goal is happiness, and you have to be like, I get what you mean. Just don't. These people are putting too much pressure on themselves, or they're projecting.
How do you feel about like where you're at right now?
I'm getting happier.
That's good.
I am. I know I have a lot of hurdles, and like I've been doing not necessarily like as bad, but the like work for work's sake thing. Like my job's still rewarding. It's just not ultimately what I want to do. So it's just like I feel like, you know, some appreciation for it, but at the same time it drains me. It's a very tiring job. It does take a lot of emotional toll. So I'm moving towards more the stuff I want to do, and yeah, I don't know. I think I'm taking the right steps, so I'm kind of happy with that.
Yeah. As long as, and it goes back to that like regret thing, right? It's like you have to make the moves where you're not gonna like regret it, even if you know that it's not gonna work out. Yeah. It's kind of like we kind of should know or should have known, or like we might have known. I don't remember that, like, you know, Nig Nag or GMV probably weren't going to work out, but that doesn't mean they weren't worth doing.
We had to try.
Like, they were fully worth all the things that we did.
I never feel regret for those things, because I'm like, those taught me skills that have brought me to where I am now, wherever that is. But it's just like, you know, I had a failed comic before, and now all those skills, I'm able to be so much faster at trying to produce my own thing, you know? Same with,
it's like learning
GMV, like going from the nag stuff to GMV, like it was already faster for you, at least I noticed, and like just us setting up and everything, you know, it's like way quicker, and now
it's like learning any skill, I think, too, right? It's like you have to fail.
You have to learn the skill.
Like you're gonna it's like jujitsu or whatever. When I think about it, like I know, like you're gonna lose first. Like you have to lose to learn.
Exactly.
Right. And I think that's just like a concept you have to like accept more and more. Like when I'm drawing right now, like I have to draw ugly shit, like not intentionally ugly, but the shit I'm gonna draw are gonna be ugly, but that's how I'm gonna learn how to draw the stuff I actually want to draw. Right. So I have to accept like where I'm at.
Okay. That's true.
Anyway,
well, I think that was
pretty good.
That was good.
Pretty good comprehensive. I rushed through all the things I wanted to say.
No, but you hit all the points. I was happy with it. So.
Well, thanks for watching.
That
was Artcast.
Hopefully that helps you.
Easy XP.
It helps us to talk about it. So.
Yeah, it helps me to talk about it.
Yeah. Bye.